When the voice of blunt truth finds himself drowning in accusation, the silence speaks louder than words. Shannon Sharpe, the larger-than-life NFL legend turned media powerhouse, now faces allegations that threaten to burn down the empire he built with sweat, swagger, and sharp suits. But when Charlamagne the God grabbed the mic on The Breakfast Club, what followed wasn't just commentary. It was a cultural reckoning. "I'm not saying he's guilty," Charlemagne warned, "but when you're trying to settle behind the scenes, people start connecting dots you don't want them to." And just like that, the court of public opinion opened for business. Fast, vicious, and unforgiving. It hit like a lightning bolt across the airwaves. Charlemagne the God, never one to mince words, dropped an on-air bombshell that immediately turned the Breakfast Club into the epicenter of a cultural earthquake. As he leaned into the mic, voice calm but cutting, he said, "These are serious allegations. This ain't just gossip. This could take a man down, and not just his career, his whole legacy." The studio fell into a stunned silence, only broken by the quiet hum of live broadcast equipment. The clip spread across social media like wildfire, gaining millions of views in hours, with hashtags like #SharpeLawsuit and #CharlemagneSpeaks shooting to the top of trending lists on X, TikTok, and YouTube. At the heart of this media firestorm was the bombshell lawsuit filed just days earlier. A civil case, $50 million in damages. The plaintiff, whose identity remains protected for now, alleged multiple instances of sexual assault, coercion, and retaliation, claims that stretch over several years and paint a chilling picture of abuse cloaked in celebrity. This isn't a criminal trial, yet, but the sheer gravity of the accusations has made it impossible for anyone in entertainment, sports, or media to look away. The Breakfast Club's coverage was relentless. Viral reaction clips showed stunned callers, fans crying out betrayal, and heated debates erupting in the comment sections. This wasn't just another segment. It was a cultural reckoning unfolding in real time. And Charlemagne, flanked by DJ Envy and guest commentators, didn't play it safe. He questioned the enablers. He called out the silence. And most of all, he warned that this lawsuit might only be the beginning of something much, much bigger. To understand the shock, you have to understand the man. Shannon Sharpe didn't just become famous. He built himself in the red clay of Georgia, all the way to the marble floors of media royalty. Raised in Glenville, a town more known for pine trees and prospects, Shannon clawed his way from poverty, raised by his grandmother in a house where food stamps were more common than paychecks. He didn't have privilege, he had grit. And he didn't have connections, he had a mouth, a mind, and the muscle to back it up. That raw honesty became his brand. On the football field, he was unstoppable, a tight end with the fire of a preacher and the ego of a king. 3 Super Bowl rings, Hall of Fame credentials, and a highlight reel that made defenders look like props in his personal legend. Off the field, that same bravado became currency in media. Whether on Undisputed with Skip Bayless or hosting Club Shay Shay, Shannon turned the art of trash talk and tough love into cultural commentary. He wasn't just reporting the news, he was the news. He made you feel like you were sitting on your uncle's porch, getting game with a splash of Hennessy and hard truths. But here's the thing about building your empire on being real. Authenticity is a double-edged sword. The very thing that endears you to millions could be the weapon they use when the tide turns. Because the louder your truth, the faster they weaponize your flaws. People loved Shannon's unfiltered takes, his country grammar, his cigar-smoking, suit-wearing, no-nonsense swagger. But now, those same traits are being reframed. Is that confidence or coercion? Is that charm or control? Is that man speaking his mind or hiding a darker nature behind performance? As the allegations swirl, every clip, every quote, every unapologetic moment from Shannon's past is being dissected, reinterpreted. His rise was meteoric, powered by personality and past struggle. But now, that same persona, once seen as empowering, is under a microscope. And the question lingers in the air. Was the authenticity real? Or just a well-packaged myth we all bought into? When a lawsuit hit the courts, it wasn't just a headline, it was a detonation. The timeline of events laid out in the legal filings paints a disturbing picture, one that's been quietly unfolding behind the scenes while Shannon Sharpe continued appearing on camera with his usual charisma and confidence. But court documents don't lie, and according to the plaintiff, this alleged nightmare began long before the public had any inkling something was wrong. The civil suit, filed in Los Angeles County Superior Court, demands $50 million in damages. The plaintiff, who we'll refer to as Jane Doe for now, claims that Sharpe used his influence, celebrity status, and personal access to manipulate and ultimately assault her. The filings allege a calculated pattern, repeated invitations to private gatherings, a progression of boundary-pushing encounters, and finally, a night in late 2021 that she says changed her life forever. According to Jane Doe, what began as professional mentorship turned dark when Sharpe allegedly pressured her into an intimate situation under the guise of networking and career guidance. She describes feeling isolated, cut off from others in a controlled environment where saying no didn't feel like an option. There are chilling details, claims of emotional manipulation, persistent contact afterward, and an alleged attempt to buy her silence in early 2022. That's when things shifted behind closed doors. Sources close to the situation say that Sharpe's legal team was aware of the allegations well before the public ever heard about them. Multiple confidential communications between attorneys suggest that mediation talks began as early as spring 2023. The plaintiff's legal counsel reportedly demanded accountability and compensation. Sharpe's side, insiders claim, offered a private settlement, one that included a tightly written non-disclosure agreement. But those talks broke down. Jane Doe refused the hush money. According to court documents, she felt silenced once and wasn't going to be silenced again. By fall 2023, the plaintiff had formally retained high-powered legal representation, and the groundwork for the lawsuit was being laid. Now, every new filing brings fresh revelations, texts, timestamps, calendar invites, even video footage that's said to support portions of her story. And while Sharpe has not yet made a direct statement on the allegations, his legal team has already begun trying to dismantle her credibility, calling the claims fabricated, defamatory, and part of a coordinated attack. But one thing is clear. This isn't just a one-off accusation. It's a carefully constructed timeline, backed by documents, intent, and allegedly receipts. The question now is whether Shannon's past actions will stand up to legal scrutiny or whether they'll bring his entire empire crashing down. Scandal doesn't just stain reputations, it scorches bottom lines. And when you're in the influencer economy, where every podcast, ad read, and brand collab is monetized down to the second, the first place to look when controversy hits is the money trail. Shannon Sharpe, a man whose persona has built brands and whose voice has sold everything from athletic wear to whiskey, is now facing the chilling effect of corporate retreat. Within 48 hours of the lawsuit going public, marketing insiders were already whispering about pause campaigns. That's industry code for pull the plug. Shannon's endorsement portfolio, once a powerhouse in sports media, has suddenly turned radioactive. Sponsors don't wait for court rulings. They read headlines, feel the pulse of public sentiment, and check their own clauses. And those clauses? They're brutal. Nearly every influencer contract today contains a morals clause, officially known as a moral turpitude clause. It's a tidy little paragraph with big consequences. If the talent's behavior is deemed damaging to the brand's image, whether proven in court or just causing public outrage, the brand can walk away clean. No payouts, no negotiations, just gone. We're talking about sneaker companies, grooming products, even wellness brands that once bragged about being Team UNC on social. Now, their Instagram likes have gone silent. Their PR teams are drafting statements. Their legal departments are combing through contracts. DJ Envy put it bluntly during a recent segment on The Breakfast Club. Look, when something like this drops, the agencies freeze the buy immediately. It don't matter if it's true. It don't matter if it's false. Sponsors pull out to protect the brand. Period. That's the game. It's not about fairness. It's about optics. And optics move faster than due process. Shannon's Nightcap podcast, once hailed as a blueprint for the athlete-to-media mobile pipeline, is reportedly facing ad cancellations from several mid-sized sponsors. Some of these brands aren't even making public statements. They're just quietly yanking the plug, cutting the wire, deleting the email threads. And then there's the domino effect. When one brand walks, others follow. Not necessarily because they believe the allegations, but because the association itself becomes a liability. This is how financial isolation starts. Not in court, but in the boardroom. Behind the scenes, talent agencies are nervous. Digital ad firms are monitoring comments and backlash in real time. Some reps are advising their clients to distance themselves from Shannon, even if it means losing short-term deals. Why? Because attaching yourself to someone under fire, even with no conviction, can tank your own deals before they ink dry. So as the court case gains steam, so does the quiet purge of partnerships. And for someone like Shannon Sharpe, whose post-NFL empire is built on his face, his voice, and his brand, this kind of financial freeze-out might cut deeper than any courtroom cross-examination. As headlines swirl and social media runs wild, one detail seems to keep getting lost in the noise. This is not a criminal trial. Shannon Sharpe is not facing jail time. There are no handcuffs, no mug shots, no district attorneys holding press conferences. This is a civil lawsuit, and while the stakes are different, the damage can be just as devastating. To break it down, legal analyst Monica Reyes recently appeared on a late-night segment to clarify what civil litigation really means. People assume if it's not a criminal case, it's somehow less serious, she said. That's simply not true. In many ways, it's just a different kind of battlefield with different rules, different burdens, and very real consequences. Let's unpack that. In a criminal court, prosecutors have to prove the defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. That's a standard so high, it's intentionally hard to reach. Civil court? Not so much. Here, the bar is preponderance of evidence. That means the plaintiff doesn't need to convince a jury that something is 100% true, just 51% likely. That tiny difference? It's everything. If the judge or jury believes there's just a slightly better chance that Shannon Sharpe did what he's accused of, he could be ordered to pay millions. And that's where things get dangerous. Because in civil court, you're not just fighting facts, you're fighting perception. There's no innocent until proven guilty in the court of public opinion. Once a civil case like this goes public, reputational damage starts immediately. You could win in court and still lose your career. Remember, this lawsuit is asking for $50 million in damages. That number isn't just about the alleged incident. It reflects pain and suffering, lost opportunities, emotional distress, punitive damages, and a calculated guess at how much the accusation alone has impacted the plaintiff's life. And with high-profile names like Shannon Sharpe involved, juries tend to assume that the money is there and should be used to make statement. Back to Monica Reyes, who summed it up like this. The burden of proof may be lower, but the consequences financially, socially, professionally can last just as long, if not longer, than a prison sentence. And let's be honest, even if Shannon wins the case, the details will live online forever. The accusations are out there, the trending clips, the think pieces, the analysis videos dissecting every movement in the courtroom. That kind of scrutiny doesn't go away, especially when your brand is your identity. What we're watching isn't just a legal battle. It's a reputational knife fight. And in civil court, sometimes survival isn't about proving you didn't do it. It's about proving you can still function in a world that already thinks you did. If civil court decides your finances, then the internet courtroom decides your legacy. And let's be clear, that trial is already in full swing. Long before Shannon Sharpe sees a jury of his legal peers, he's already facing the court of public opinion, where the evidence is tweets, the judge is an algorithm, and the sentence is cancellation by virality. Public reaction to this case has fractured into the usual chaotic tribes. You got Shannon's loyalists, fans who grew up watching him rise from Savannah's red clay to NFL greatness and sports media royalty. They're defending him not just because they like him, but because he's them, a symbol of Black success, masculinity, and unfiltered confidence. In their eyes, this is yet another takedown of a strong black man speaking his truth. They're flooding comment sections, quoting past interviews, and posting #FreeShannon hashtags, even though no one's locked up. Then you've got the other side, the cancel culture coalition. For them, the allegations are enough. They're not waiting for the court. In their minds, if someone comes forward, especially in such a high-stakes, high-profile way, it must be true. They're sharing survivor-centered narratives, demanding accountability, and warning brands that any association with Shannon is now an act of complicity. And in the middle, the chaos machine of stan culture, where nothing is sacred and everything is content. Memes are already in rotation, remixing clips from Undisputed, turning Sharpe's old rants into punchlines, and splicing together reaction GIFs with courtroom footage. One TikTok shows Shannon shouting "skip" over footage of the plaintiff entering a courthouse. Another falsely claims he was caught on a hot mic, a completely edited fabrication that's already been viewed over 4 million times. It's what one commentator called barbershop debates gone global. Back in the day, arguments over whether someone was guilty or not stayed in real-life barbershops or basements. Now, they go viral. They trend. They get monetized. But here's where it gets dangerous. This isn't just about opinions. This is about narratives, and many of them are built on altered or outright false media. Screenshots with no source. Edited videos that change the tone of what was actually said. Leaked DMs with no verification. A rumor hits Reddit and becomes fact by breakfast. It's no longer about what happened. It's about what could be believed by the masses in 15 seconds or less. And Shannon, for all his bravado, is now learning the most brutal truth of all. Once the internet puts you on trial, there's no appeal process. No matter what the actual court decides, the timeline already moved on, and the receipts live forever. As one viral tweet put it, Shannon Sharpe used to judge athletes every morning. Now we're judging him. Fair or not, that's the game now. In a rare moment of restraint from a man known for pushing buttons, Charlemagne the God did something unexpected. He pumped the brakes on the outrage machine. It happened during a follow-up segment on The Breakfast Club, just days after the Shannon Sharpe story broke wide open. The phones were ringing off the hook, the YouTube clips were getting clipped and clipped again, and the room was riding the kind of energy that could have easily turned into a pile-on. But Charlemagne leaned back from the mic, took a breath, and said something that made the entire studio go still. We gotta remember, alleged doesn't mean guilty. It means unproven. And if we throw that word around like seasoning, without respect, then we're no better than a comment section. It was a moment of media self-reflection and a subtle warning to his co-hosts, the audience, and himself. Because Charlemagne knows how it goes. He's been on both sides, the accuser, the accused, the amplifier, and the apologized to. He's seen how quickly commentary morphs into condemnation. And this time, he was urging caution, not silence, but accountability in how we speak. He looked directly into the camera and said, "We are not the judge and jury. We are storytellers. That comes with responsibility. If we treat an allegation like a verdict, then we're rewriting the rules in real time. And we're doing it live, in front of millions." This wasn't Charlemagne abandoning his edge. He still dissected the details, still asked the messy questions. But this time, he refused to give the internet what it wanted, a premature verdict. He cautioned against what he called social sentencing, the tendency to ruin someone's career before facts even land. We've seen too many cases where somebody gets cooked in the public fryer, and then when the truth comes out, the apology don't trend. He even referenced his own past controversies, nodding to the lessons he learned under pressure, about due process, about letting facts breathe, about not letting your mic become a weapon. It was a surprisingly measured moment from a man who built his brand on shock value. But maybe that's the evolution. When you've been in the fire, you learn to be careful where you throw matches. And in this case, Charlemagne didn't just comment on the culture, he challenged it. This isn't just a scandal. It's a strategic war being fought in courtrooms and comment sections alike. And leading the legal charge is none other than Tony Busby, a name that sends chills down the spines of athletes and entertainers alike. He's not your average attorney. This is the same man who went after Deshaun Watson with dozens of accusers lined up like a legal firing squad. And now, he's come for Shannon Sharpe. Busby doesn't just file lawsuits, he sets traps. From day one, his camp came with a media-ready narrative, airtight language, and just enough suggestive detail to spark a firestorm online. Court documents leaked to the press within hours. Selective quotes from depositions made their way onto gossip blogs before the ink dried. The message was clear. This won't be a quiet case. It will be public, painful, and permanent. Whispers began almost immediately about leaked evidence. Audio recordings, video clips, screenshots of text messages. Some real, some allegedly altered. Social media lit up with clips that seemed damaging at first glance. But when slowed down or analyzed, the context shifted. What started as proof turned into a digital Rorschach test. People saw what they wanted to see, and that's exactly the point. Because while Busby's camp played offense in the public arena, Sharpe's legal team was preparing for battle of their own. In a filing that broke late last week, they accused the plaintiff of orchestrating an extortion plot wrapped in legal clothing. The claim? That Sharpe was approached with demands for a private settlement before any official legal paperwork was filed. And when he refused, the civil suit came down like a hammer. Sharpe's reps say this isn't about justice. It's about jackpot justice. They allege the accuser timed the filing to coincide with one of Sharpe's most lucrative contract windows, hoping pressure from sponsors would force a quick, quiet payout. In a scathing statement released through his attorney, Sharpe's camp said, "We will not be manipulated. We will not settle under threat. And we will not allow character assassination to replace due process." But here's the thing. Tony Busby thrives on pressure. He counts on his opponents to flinch first. Every motion he files is a signal flare to the public. Every press conference is a masterclass in soundbite warfare. It's less about courtrooms and more about control of the narrative. What we're witnessing isn't just a lawsuit. It's a modern media siege, and both sides are armed to the teeth. Behind the headlines, beneath the trending hashtags, there's a deeper current running through this entire saga. One that doesn't show up in legal filings but defines how the public reacts. The unspoken rules for black male celebrities in America. Because when Shannon Sharpe gets accused, he doesn't just face the allegations. He faces the cultural weight of being a tall, loud, Southern black man in a space that still polices how black men show up. Let's start with how quickly suspicion becomes conviction when it's a black athlete in the spotlight. We've seen it too many times. Michael Vick, Kobe Bryant, Deshaun Watson, even back to Mike Tyson. The moment a story drops, the benefit of the doubt evaporates. Not because the facts are clear, but because the narrative feels familiar. People subconsciously slot these men into a script they've already seen. And once that happens, guilt becomes aesthetic. Shannon built his brand on being real, country, gritty, unapologetically black. From the dirt roads of Georgia to ESPN and Club Shay Shay, he wore his story like a badge of honor. But authenticity is a double-edged sword. The very traits that made him relatable are now being flipped against him. When he sips Hennessy and smokes a black and mild on camera, it's classic Uncle Shay. But when allegations surface, that same image gets twisted. Suddenly, it's unrefined, unprofessional, too much. That's the trap. Coded language starts to creep in. Pundits call him aggressive, not passionate. They question his judgment, not his resume. People whisper about his antics while ignoring his decades of discipline and achievement. It's the same tone that turns confidence into arrogance and turns emotion into volatility, but only when it's coming from a black man. Even the legal discourse gets racialized. He should have known better. They say, he's got too much money to act like that. As if success means surrendering your culture. As if moving up means toning down. But Sharpe never played that game. He didn't soften his southern drawl for TV. He didn't hide where he came from. And now, in the court of public opinion, those very choices are being held against him. This isn't just about guilt or innocence. It's about how black public figures are framed, especially when they're big, bold, and beloved. The punishment often starts before a single fact is confirmed, because perception isn't just shaped by evidence, it's shaped by history. And that history is loud, heavy, and still very present. We're living in an era where justice doesn't wait for a courtroom, because it's already gone viral. On TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts, Shannon Sharpe isn't just a defendant in a civil case. He's a character in a million microdramas edited, captioned, and spun in under 60 seconds. The moment the allegations hit, the sound bites started flying. Clips of Sharpe yelling on Undisputed, cut with ominous music. Old tweets resurfacing with zero context. Reels splicing together court documents with flashy red arrows and captions like, "This changes everything." In a world run by engagement algorithms, nuance dies in the edit bay. A 30-second video might get 3 million views, but it only tells half a truth, if that. And the internet doesn't care if it's accurate. It cares if it's watchable. So suddenly, Shannon's body language in old interviews is being dissected like evidence. His podcast monologues are being reinterpreted through the lens of suspicion. He's not just being judged, he's being rewritten one viral clip at a time. And when it comes to misinformation, all it takes is a bold caption. Shannon admits it on camera, and the damage is done. People don't share attractions. They share drama. As one lawyer recently joked online, this isn't a case. It's a content vertical. Charlemagne the God, to his credit, acknowledged the firestorm head-on. On air, he promised that the Breakfast Club would do more than chase clout with half-baked hot takes. This is a sensitive situation. It deserves facts, not filters. Allegations aren't guilt, and edits aren't evidence, he said. We owe it to our audience, and to ourselves, to hold the line between content and truth. It was a rare moment of media accountability in a digital landscape that thrives on chaos. Because when stories move at the speed of Wi-Fi, reputations can collapse long before a judge ever hears a word. The TikTok jury never rests, never checks sources, and never forgets what you looked like in 0.75x slow motion. As this story unfolds, the fight won't just be in court. It'll be in comments, captions, and countless edits, where truth is optional and engagement is king. Let's talk numbers, because $50 million isn't just a headline. It's a statement. When that kind of figure hits a lawsuit, it's not just about damages. It's about power, pressure, and perception. On The Breakfast Club, Charlamagne broke it down in plain language. $50 million ain't just a check request. It's a chess move. In civil court, these eye-popping sums often serve dual purposes. 1. To signal how serious the plaintiff is. 2. To send a public message. We're not afraid, and we're not settling quiet. But in the court of public opinion, that number split the crowd. Some fans immediately called it extortion with a celebrity markup. Like the more famous you are, the higher the tab. He's rich, so of course they're coming for the bag. One commenter wrote, echoing thousands of similar takes across X, Instagram, and Reddit. It's a familiar reaction, especially when a black male celebrity is involved. Defensiveness meets distrust in the justice system. But there's another camp, just as loud, just as passionate, who say the number doesn't go far enough. To them, $50 million isn't wild, it's overdue. A small price for alleged trauma, public shame, and the power imbalance that often protects the famous. One viral tweet read, "If you believe victims, then you understand this is what accountability costs." And then there are the legal analysts who see it as pure strategy. The goal might not be to win $50 million, but to push a high enough ceiling that a private settlement becomes more appealing. It's negotiation theater, as one attorney put it. High number in the headlines, lower number behind closed doors, but the public already feels the punch. Charlemagne didn't claim to know the truth, but he did say this, whether it's justice or a money grab. This figure forces all of us to pay attention, because now it's not just he said, she said. Now it's a lawsuit with enough zeros to shake a brand, freeze a network, and rewrite a career. So when you see $50 million, know this, that number isn't random. It's a signal to Shannon, to the public, to the sponsors. It says, we're not whispering, we're yelling, and we want the world to hear it. So here's the $1 million, or or maybe $50 million. Question: what happens to Shannon Sharpe now? He's no rookie in controversy, but this isn't sports beef or social media drama. This is a civil suit with career-shaking allegations and a spotlight that doesn't blink. The networks are watching. The sponsors are sweating. And Shannon? He's walking a tightrope that could determine whether he stays a media titan or becomes an independent renegade. Already, whispers are circulating about whether Fox, ESPN, or even YouTube powerhouses might bench him temporarily. Not fire, not denounce, just distance. It's the PR playbook. We respect due process, but we're reviewing the situation. That type of language. But this is where Shannon's brand might save him. Or trap him. Because let's be honest, he's built a career off being uncensored, unpolished, real. That realness might make corporate media nervous in scandal, but it also gives him something rare: leverage. Just look at the blueprint. Mike Tyson didn't need mainstream sports channels to stay relevant. Joe Rogan didn't need a network to become the most polarizing voice in podcasting. Could Shannon do the same? Could he break free, launch his own platform, and speak without filters or executives? Absolutely. His fan base is loyal. His clips go viral even when he's just sipping a drink and raising an eyebrow. But that freedom comes with a cost. Isolation. When you leave the big leagues, you lose their shields too. Legal teams, PR muscle, advertiser cushions. You gain independence, sure, but you also take every punch alone. No buffer, no edit button, no soft landing. And then there's the culture question. Shannon Sharpe isn't just a sports analyst. He's a cultural figure. From Club Shay Shay to mainstream debates, he's been a bridge between locker room real talk and primetime discourse. If he disappears or drifts to a smaller, solo stage, that space won't just be quieter, it'll feel emptier. So what's next? He could stay and ride it out. Public apologies, strategic silence, maybe a temporary step back. Or he could pull a full pivot. Own his story, own his show, own his future. The only certainty is this. No matter what move he makes next, Shannon Sharpe's legacy is now tied to more than sports. It's tied to how he navigates scandal, power, and public opinion in real time, with everyone watching. This is where things get slower, messier, more dangerous, not just for Shannon Sharpe, but for everyone orbiting this case. Because if you think the headlines are wild already, just wait until discovery begins. In civil court, discovery is when both sides have to lay their cards on the table. Emails, texts, DMs, security footage, financial records, it's all fair game. And in cases like this, where reputation is the real currency, discovery can become a battlefield. Every message sent in anger, every off-the-cuff voice note, every leaked video or partial clip could shift the balance. And let's be honest, this is the era of media-assisted litigation. You don't just argue in court, you argue in the press, in the algorithm, in 30-second TikToks. One leak, one suggestive image, one damning quote taken out of context, and the public can turn overnight. Legal insiders say Sharpe's team is already pushing for protective orders, court-issued rules that prevent sensitive evidence from going public. That's a smart move, because without them, discovery can become a feeding frenzy for tabloids. Salacious details get taken out of court filings and dropped straight into headlines, with none of the legal nuance that belongs in a courtroom. But protective orders cut both ways. They limit leaks, but also transparency. And in the age of receipts and online justice, that can fuel more speculation. What are they hiding becomes the new rumor. Silence becomes suspicious. The truth becomes a puzzle that no one can finish. Meanwhile, the media cycle doesn't wait for trial dates. Podcasts are already booking analysts. YouTubers are building theories. Instagram pages are cherry-picking texts, threading together timelines, and branding guilt or innocence before a single deposition is taken. And this could go on for months, maybe a year. Civil litigation isn't fast, it's a grind. A draining, day-by-day battle of narratives, filings, delays, and strategic silence. The people who win these wars aren't just right, they're resilient. They outlast the attention span of the internet and keep control of the story when most would spiral. So the long road ahead? It's not just about law. It's about stamina. Shannon Sharpe may be used to fourth quarters and overtime, but this isn't a game. It's a slow-motion storm. And the question now is simple. Can he weather it? This is the part nobody warns you about, the collateral damage to everyone watching. When a story like Shannon Sharpe's explodes across timelines, it's not just the accused or the accuser who feel it. It's the fans, the followers, the people who built emotional ties to a public figure they've never actually met. Welcome to the age of the parasocial breakdown. Shannon wasn't just a sports analyst or a podcast voice. To many, he was UNC, the older brother who spoke hard truths, the Southern firebrand who made vulnerability masculine, the guy who brought black excellence to Fox Sports in a do-rag and gold chain. So when allegations like this hit, they don't just challenge facts, they shatter feelings. Fans are split. Some say they knew something fell off. Others are doubling down, defending him like it's their own name on the lawsuit. And in the middle, a quiet grief. That sick churn of watching someone you admired unravel in real time. It's betrayal mixed with confusion, laced with memories of when that person made you feel seen. But here's the deeper truth. This stuff is exhausting. Mentally, emotionally. Scrolling through constant updates, comment wars, podcast debates, it creates a spiral. You start questioning who's real. You start distrusting what joy you felt before. You wonder if everyone's hiding something, or if you're naive for believing anyone at all. And that's when Charlamagne took a beat, an unusual moment of calm. No punchlines, no hot takes, just a reminder. Don't let someone else's downfall become your own spiral. These people aren't your saviors. You can be disappointed, you can feel let down, but protect your own peace. Log off, touch grass, talk to real people. Real life is nuance. Social media doesn't. Because when icons fall, they leave a crater. And if you stand too close, that gravity can pull you in. So as the Shannon Sharpe case stretches on, it's okay to step back, to breathe, to let the courts do what courts do, and let yourself feel without needing to perform it online. In the end, nobody wins when everyone's drowning in someone else's chaos. As the dust settles, for now, Charlemagne leans in with that signature mix of blunt force and introspection. No bombshells left to drop in this segment. Just a mirror held up to the culture that devours these scandals like breakfast. And in that final minute, he drops what might be the realest take of the hour. If we're going to talk about accountability, let's start with consistency. Not just for celebrities, but for ourselves. It's easy to tweet #ProtectBlackWomen when it's convenient. Just as easy to shout, innocent until proven guilty, when it's someone you admire. But what about when the lines blur? When there's no clear hero, no clean villain? That's when the contradictions start showing, and Charlemagne calls it out. He challenges listeners to stop making accountability a trending topic and start making it a daily principle. Not just for public figures, but in group chats, in relationships, in media. Because this culture we've built, it reflects what we tolerate, excuse, or ignore. And before the outro hits, Charlemagne tees up what's next. There's more coming. The case is far from over. Discovery hasn't even cracked open yet. And as the internet plays detective, the show is bringing in forensic expert Ari Vega to separate digital fact from fiction, leaked audio from deepfakes, receipts from rumors. So tune in, because in a world where every screenshot is a battleground and every voice memo feels like a grenade, truth takes work. And we're just getting started.